We are on the record for hearings in the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for September 28th, 2022. I am Stephen Nelson, hearing examiner for these hearings. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources, Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9 a.m. On the docket, the following matters will be continued or dismissed. On page 4, case number 29461 will be dismissed. Case number 29462 will be dismissed. Case number 29230 will be continued to October. Case number 29405 will be continued to October. And case number 29346 will be continued to October. The administrative docket starts on page 5 with case number 29572 and goes through case number 29598. These cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zisch. Audio recordings of the cases on the administrative docket will be placed on the Oil and Gas website by the end of the week. If you wish to appear in one of the matters on the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there is opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into this hearing room to be heard, and your statements and evidence will be taken. We will begin with case number 29558. In the matter of a hearing called on a motion of the Commission to consider the confiscation under NDCC sections 380804 and 380804.9 of all equipment and saleable oil at the treating plant built in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 25, Township 150 North, Range 100 West, McKenzie County, ND, operated by Clean Petroleum Services, Inc. for any working interest owner. Will all interested parties please come forward? And I don't see it. Anyone, I don't believe, for the record, nobody has appeared for Clean Petroleum Services. Are there any comments from the Commission?
The notice of this hearing was sent by certified mail to the people that we believe own this facility. They accepted service. I move that we make the Commission's inspection notes and other records part of the record.
Is there any objection to making notes and other inspection records part of the record? Seeing none, the evidence is admitted. Is there anything further in this matter? Seeing none, that will conclude the hearing for case number 29558. Case number 29559. On a motion of the Commission to review the status of the leases in sections 30 and 31 within the 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 29, 30, 31, and 32, Township 154 North, Range 96 West, Grinnell, Bakken Pool, McKenzie, and Williams Counties, ND, and the progress towards developing said sections 30 and 31 as a stand-up 1280 acre spacing unit, and such other relief as is appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Petrohunt, LLC. I have one witness appearing today, Mr. Mike Dewald, and he is present with me at the table.
All right. Mr. Dewald, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Mike, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Mike Dewald, landman with Petrohunt, P.O. Box 935, Bismarck, North Dakota 58502.
And Mike, have you previously testified before this commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And Mike, are you familiar with the spacing units at issue for today's hearing?
I am.
Okay. I'd move the testimony of Mr. Dewald be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Mike, let's start off with your exhibit number 1. If you can just identify the spacing units and what Petrohunt's interest is in each of those.
Here I identified the 2560 of 29, 32, and 30, and 31 in 154.96, and on the right-hand side of the page, I did the working interest breakdown for that 2560. And as you can see, 2932 is controlled by XTO, and then the 1280 of question is the 30 and 31. And on there you can see the green is the unleased fed in there, and the yellow is the Petrohunt working interest. And as you can see, that unleased fed is preventing the development of that 1280 of 30 and 31.
Then let's move on to exhibit number 2. Take us through that exhibit.
Exhibit number 2 kind of piggybacks off of exhibit number 1. It shows section 30 and 31 with Petrohunt's leasehold in yellow, and the unleased fed in section 31. And that unleased fed is currently preventing the development of that 1280 of 30 and 31. And this map also depicts, I think it's a little hard to read, the well bore of XTO's Homer well that does go down the lease line that that did develop that 2932 and 30 and 31 2560.
And Mike, is it Petro Hunt's intention to still attempt to develop 30 and 31 as 1280?
Yes, as soon as that lease comes up, we would want to get that on our rig schedule as soon as possible.
And it's Petro Hunt's opinion that's the most efficient and economic way to develop these lands?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And you've been making efforts since approximately 2013 to have this leased, is that correct?
Yeah, this track has been nominated many times by many different people, and it hasn't been up for sale as of yet. There's many steps that had to be done. A supplemental environmental impact statement had to be done. That is now done. So everything's really in place now for that to get on a sale. Which I get into Exhibit 3.
Sure, let's move on to Exhibit 3. So there has been some progress since we were here last year?
Yep, and to follow up on what I was talking about the things needed for this to be on a sale, I did have communications with the BLM, specifically Samantha Ironshirt with the Montana Dakota BLM office. And she did state that the BLM has received concurrence from this parcel from the United States Forest Service and is currently preparing this parcel for the next upcoming sale in the calendar year of 2023. And I followed up more on that, and that's basically meaning everything's in place for the BLM to prepare this parcel for the next lease sale. That it's not guaranteed the parcel will be on the final list, and no lease sale has yet been scheduled for 2023. They are anticipating this information about the next lease sale to come from headquarters soon.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for Mr. Dewald, and I would offer the 3 exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Wade, does Petro Hunt have any objection to making the records in the previous cases part of the record?
No objection.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, on your Exhibit 1, the Petro Hunt leasehold, is that fee?
Section 30 is state minerals, and then the interest in 31, that's federal. That small 80 acres, or that is a federal lease.
And how about is all of Section 30 state minerals?
No, up in the north half of the northeast, that is fee.
So the unleased federal in 31 is preventing all the owners, state, fee, and federal, from enjoying the royalty interest that could be gained by drilling wells on 1,280 acre units, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none? Anything further in this matter, Mr. Wade, or Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
Alright, that will conclude the hearing in case number 29559. Moving on. Case number 29560. Application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bull Butte and/or Bone Trail Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 3840 acre spacing unit described as sections 3, 4, 9, 10, 15, and 16, Township 156 North, Range 102 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Oasis Petroleum North America, LLC. And, Mr. Examiner, I'm also appearing in the following 4 Oasis cases. So it'd be 29560 through 29564. And similar to the past couple months, all of these cases are related, and I'll have the same three witnesses appearing telephonically. And I would ask that we be allowed to consolidate these cases for purposes of hearing. What we've got, again, there's two of the cases are for stand-up 1920s stacked on top of each other, and then the other three cases are for 3840s for lease line wells, one on each side of the northernmost 1920, and then one on the west side of the southernmost 1920. And Mr. Examiner, if I may, I'd call the witnesses now. And it's going to be Nicole Meredith, Nathan Gableman, and Cole Carruthers.
I guess I should ask, is there any objection to consolidating these hearings or these cases for the purposes of hearing from the commission? Yep. Seeing none, these cases will be consolidated for the purposes of hearing, and I'll go ahead and start reading through those other cases. Case number 29561, application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bull Butte Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping stand-up 1920 acre space unit described as sections 4, 9, and 16, Township 156 North, Range 102 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Case number 29562, application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bull Butte Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 3840 acre space unit described as sections 4, 5, 8, 9, 16, and 17, Township 156 North, Range 102 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. And case number 29563, application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bull Butte Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 3840 acre space unit described as sections 20, 21, 28, 29, 32, and 33, Township 156 North, Range 102 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. And case number 29564, application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Bull Butte Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping stand-up 1920 acre space unit described as sections 21, 28, and 33, Township 156 North, Range 102 West, Williams County, ND, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Are your witnesses on the line, Mr. Mann?
Should be, yes.
All right, and so your first witness was Ms. Meredith. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, Nicole Meredith, employed with Oasis Petroleum North America. Business address is 1001 Fannin, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002, and capacity is landman.
And Nicole, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with these hearings?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Meredith be received as that of an expert in these cases.
Your testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Nicole, let's start with 29560, that first 3840. If you can take us through the land exhibits, beginning with L1 locator.
Sure. So the regional locator map here depicts our 3840 section, which is comprised of Township 156, Range 102, Sections 3, 4, 9, 10, and 15 and 16.
Okay, and L2, can you take us your working interest in that 3840?
Yes, this is the 3840 working interest for the unit depicted in red, showing an 81.62% working interest for Oasis.
Okay, and let's move on to L3, your working interest in the underlying units.
All right. So the attached map shows the underlying 1280 spaced units. There's 4 units here, each of which Oasis operates. Unit A with a 95% interest, Unit B with an 88%, C 44, and D with a 98.8% working interest,
Okay.
which contributes to the 3840.
Sure. And Mr. Examiner, I have no further questions for Ms. Meredith in this case, and I'd offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none? Mr. Gableman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Nathan, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Nathan Galeman. I'm employed by Oasis Petroleum as a geologist, located at 1001 Fannin, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002.
And Nathan, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying these proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Gableman be received as that of an expert in these cases.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Nathan, let's go ahead and walk through your geology exhibits, beginning with the structure map.
Yes, the structure map on G1 is based off the Upper Bakken Shale top. I have it on a 20-foot contour interval, and on the map I have highlighted the proposed DSU in blue, and on the western side there I have the type log depicted the straw POW well.
Okay, let's move on to the ice pack map.
Yes, Exhibit G2 shows the Middle Bakken gross S-Pack map on a 2-foot contour interval, again showing the proposed DSU in blue, the straw POW type log well to the west there.
Okay, and then moving on to the type log.
Yes, on G3 shows the type log of the straw POW well. I have the gamma ray log on the left-hand track, followed by the resistivity log in the middle track, the porosity log on the far right track.
Okay, I have no further questions for Mr. Gableman in this case. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none? Mr. Carruthers, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Cole, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Cole Carruthers. I'm currently employed by Oasis Petroleum. Our business address is 1001 Fannin Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002.
And Cole, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, they have been.
And are you familiar with the engineering-related matters associated with these spacing units?
I am, yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Carruthers be received as that of an expert in these cases.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Cole, let's start with E1. Can you just describe how you would intend to develop the proposed 3840?
Okay, in E1, we see our proposed 2 units, 1920 units we're forming here, and then we see our 3840 outlined in navy. We have a couple existing wells in the units we're forming, and then we got a few over to our east as well.
Okay.
Moving on to E2, we have, we're planning on one well in the 3840, and it will be a middle Bakken, and we have our typical setbacks of 150 and 250.
Okay. Let's move on to E3. Take us through the reservoir data and economics.
In E3, up top, in our top chart, we got our reservoir data. We got good pressure at 7,000, and we have a pretty thick zone at 39 feet. Our original oil in place for the 3840 is going to be 40,600,000 stock tank barrels. And we're planning a well EUR of 734,000 with one well that brings our recovery factor of the 3840 to 2%. On our economics, we're running these at 65 and 3. This is going to be a 15,540 foot lateral or a 3-mile lateral. Our investment is going to be just over $10 million, and we're planning on bringing in a total of $36 million, which brings our undiscounted return on investment to 2.15.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Crothers. In this case, I'd offer the engineering exhibits and gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Cole, this is Bruce Hicks. Can you tell us the additional time necessary to drill that 3rd mile? I mean, the typical 2-mile wells, are you completing those in like 15 days, or how many days is it taking you?
Second, I can pull up our estimated drill times here. So our estimated drill time for a 3-mile versus a 2-mile adds roughly 2 days. Day and a half to 2 days, probably.
Okay, and what are you drilling your 2-mile laterals? How many days?
It depends on if it's a Dakota string, a deep surface or not, but I think the standard basic design is probably going to be around 12 days, and then our 3-milers, we're planning on 14.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, I suppose Mr. Manny can move on.
Yeah,
to the
we'll
next
move
case.
on. And I apologize, Mr. Examiner and staff. Due to the nature of these cases, there's going to be, overlap in a lot of the exhibits, so we'll try to not duplicate our efforts. So, Nicole, let's move on to 29561, the Northern 1920, and if you can take us through the land exhibits in that case.
Sure. So Exhibit L1 is our locator map, which depicts in red the 1920 spaced unit we're requesting.
Okay, and let's move on to your working interest, L2.
Yes, the working interest in for 156-102, sections 4, 9, and 16 is 93%.
Okay. And then I think we've already touched probably on the breakdown in L3, but can you just identify it for this specific 1920?
Yes, the breakdown here for map on the map description, Unit A is a 1280, and that takes a part of the northern portion of this 1920, and then Section 16 will be pulling in from the southern 1280.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, excuse me, for Ms. Meredith in this case.
Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, you may move on to your next witness.
Nathan, let's go through the geology exhibits. With this particular 1920 being part of the previous 3840, if you can just indicate if there's any distinctions from your previous testimony or anything in the exhibits you want to point out.
Yeah, exhibit G1 to G3, there's nothing material different, just highlighting 1920 versus 3840.
Okay. Anything in the type log or the ISOPAC map that's distinct?
Nothing distinct. Same type log, and then the ISPAC just, again, showing just the 1920 versus 3840. So
Sure.
similar thickness.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Gableman in this case, and I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The geology exhibits are admitted. I don't think we have the exhibits from the land man either,
Oh, I guess I'd offer the land exhibits as well.
and those are admitted as well.
Thank you.
And you can move on to your next witness.
Yeah, Cole, Can you take us through the engineering exhibits, identify the 1920 and your proposed development?
It's 1920 here, outlined in red. Not really any additional comments there. I think we're all aware where it is. On E2, you can see our proposed development. We're planning 4 Bakken wells here. We have our 2 existing wells. They stack on top of each other pretty well. And development is pretty simple here. Typical setbacks, and they're all going to be little Bakken wells.
Okay. And how
So we're
about,
moving on to
yeah, E3?
in E3, this is similar to our last economic, other than maybe the original on the places, but just for the 1920. With 4 wells, we're planning a recovery factor of 15%. Our per well economics are similar at $10 million and an undiscounted return on investment of 2.15.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Crothers. In this case, I'd offer the engineering exhibits and gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, move on to your next witness, or next case, I suppose.
Yeah, Nicole, let's go ahead and move on to 29562, the 3840 for the lease line on the other side of this 1920. Can you take us through the
Yeah,
land
so
exhibits?
similar, of course, similar to the initial case we discussed, this is the western section line case. Contributing to that is sections 4, 5, 8, 9, and 16 and 17.
Okay, and how about your working interest in this 3840?
Yes, so the working interest in the unit shown in red is 82.07% for the 3840.
Okay, and let's move on to L3, the breakdown of the underlying spacing units.
Okay. Yes, we show here the 4 units that are contributing to the 3840. So all 4 1280s, Oasis operates each of them. Sections 4 and 9, as depicted in green, we have an 88.4%. 5 and 8 in blue on the map is a 70.5%. 16 and 21, shown in purple, is a 98.8%, and 17 and 20, shown in orange, is a 70.5% working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions for Ms. Meredith. In this case, I'd offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, move on to your next witness.
Okay. Nathan, geology exhibits on this case, moving over to the west, anything unique or in particular you'd like to point out on the exhibits for this case?
Nothing too unique on G1, maybe just a little bit shallower as you go on up to out of the basin a little bit. And going to G2, again, going just a little bit west, so just a little bit thinner compared to the previous exhibit, but using the same type log for G30.
Sure. And that's all the exhibits I have for Mr. Gableman in this case, and I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, you can move on to your next witness.
Cole, can you go ahead and take us through the engineering exhibits, identify the proposed spacing unit in your plan of development?
In E1, we see our post spacing unit. Out to the west, we have a couple wells, which are kind of towards the center of that unit to the west. Moving on to E2, you can see our proposed single Bakken well down the middle of the section line. Typical setbacks here. And then in E3, this is similar to our section line on the east side as well. So nothing distinct here to point out.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Crothers on this case. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, you can move on to your next case.
Nicole, let's see, moving on to the south, can you Take us through the land exhibits, beginning with the locator map for this one.
Sure. So the red outline depiction is the 3840 that we're requesting for spacing, which is sections 20, 21, 28, 29, 32, and 33 in Township 156, Range 102.
And moving on to L2, can you identify your working interest in that spacing unit?
Yes, in the spacing unit for the 3840, our working interest is at a 79.39%.
And L3?
L3, similar to the last 3840s we've looked at, it just identifies the 4 underlying 1280 units that Oasis does operate. So Unit A, depicted in green, is a 98.8% working interest. B, depicted in blue, is a 70.5%. C, depicted in purple, is a 78%, and D, as depicted in orange, is a 70% working interest.
Okay. I have no further questions for Ms. Meredith. In this case, I'd offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we can move on to your next witness.
Okay. Nathan, can you take us through the geology exhibits, moving just to the south, if there's any distinctions from the previous cases?
Exhibit G1, again, yeah, nothing major, just drilling south, you beat a little bit deeper versus the units to the north. Then going to G2, there's not a significant difference in thickness across the unit, maybe a little bit thinner to the southwest there. Then same type log for G3.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Gableman in this case. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, you can move on to your next witness.
And Cole, on the engineering, if you can identify the spacing unit in your proposed development plan.
Yep. Okay, moving south, we got our spacing, our section 1 spacing outlined in navy. We have a couple of wells, a little bit tighter here. It'll stack up as well as the previous cases, but we're proposing one well to be drilled on the section line. Get that myself. Moving on to E2, one well proposed, middle Bakken, and our typical setbacks here. Miller economics, these are similar economics to the previous cases. We're expecting similar results here, so we're using the same type curve and our similar for well economics.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we can move on to your next case.
Okay, and Nicole, moving on to 29564, if you can identify the spacing unit for that case.
Yes, so exhibit L1 depicts the 1920 that we're requesting for spacing, which is comprised of sections 21, 28, and 33 of 156, 102.
And let's move on to L2.
All right, the working interest for said 1920 acre space unit, as shown in red here, is 88.4%.
And L3.
L3 describes the 2 underlying units which Oasis operates. As previously mentioned, Unit A is shown as Section 16 and 21 with a 98.8% working interest, and Unit B, shown as 28 and 33, is a 78.0% working interest.
Okay. I have no further questions for Ms. Meredith. I'd offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, you can move on to your next witness.
And Nathan, the geology exhibits, can you just quickly walk us through those?
Exhibit G1, again, the Upper Bakken structure map. There's nothing material different from the previous cases. G2, same middle Bakken aspect. Nothing material different here as well. Then G3 is the same type log.
Okay. I have no further questions for Mr. Gableman. I'd offer the geology exhibits in this case.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, you can move on to your next witness.
Cole, engineering exhibits, can you identify the spacing unit in your development plan for that spacing unit?
Yes, sir. Outlined here is our 1920. Like you can see, I mentioned on the last case, our wells don't stack up as perfectly due to the north. So we can move on to E2 for our development plan. Planning 4, all Bakken wells with typical setbacks, and we just kind of space them out around the existing parent wells. Put them as evenly spaced as possible. Moving on to E3, there's no difference here from our last 1920 economics. Similar type curve and similar overall economics.
Okay. And Cole, in your opinion, if the relief is granted and these, both the 1920s are created as well as the 3840s for these lease line wells, in your opinion, is that going to prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, sir, I believe it will.
I have no further questions for Mr. Crothers. That offered the engineering exhibits and gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Cole, since this is I guess the last case in the consolidated matters, is there a reason we don't have an application for a section line well to the east of this 1920?
Yes. The reason we didn't apply for one is because that existing well, you can see it in E2, it's just over 500 feet off the section line. So we didn't think there was a chance we would drill that well.
So the well in the 1280 to the east is a little too close to the section line well, or to the section line for your comfort?
Not too close for our comfort, but too close to where we would want to drill in that 550 foot spacing is a little too tight for us.
So you just don't feel you need a well there to produce those hydrocarbons?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Cole, have you looked at surface locations where you plan to drill these wells?
We've done some desktop scouting. We haven't gotten boots on the ground yet. We are planning to drill it from the center in between section 16 and 21 and drill wells going north and south. Hopefully we have one pad.
And do you plan to batch drill those wells?
We plan to batch drill each unit. It might be where we drill the northern wells, all the northern wells together, and then come back and drill all the southern wells together. So we would drill all the unit together, each unit together.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, anything further in this matter, Mr. Men?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
That will conclude the hearing for case numbers 29560, 29561, 29562, 29563, and 29564. Moving on, case number 29565. Application of Mercury Resources LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Rocky Hill Madison Pool, Stark County, ND, to extend the outline and amend the applicable orders for the Rocky Hill Field to include all of sections 9 and 16, Township 138 North, Range 99 West, establish 2 stand-up 960-acre spacing units described as the west half of sections 5, 8, and 17, and the east half of sections 5, 8, and 17, Township 138 North, Range 99 West, and authorize 3 horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit. Establish 2 stand-up 640-acre spacing units described as the west half of sections 9 and 16, the east half of sections 9 and 16, Township 138 North, Range 99 West, and authorize 2 horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit. Reduce the setbacks from 500 feet to 440 feet to the east-west boundary and to 400 feet from the heel and toe of each well to the north-south boundary of each existing and proposed spacing unit, and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Mercury Resources LLC. I have one witness, Mr. Jeff Brem, and I'll call him now. Jeff, we're live in the hearing room.
All right,
Mr. Brem, can you hear me?
I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under the penalties of perjury, that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Jeff, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Okay. My name is Jeffrey A. Brem. I'm employed at Phoenix Energy Partners in Katy, Texas, 4702 Blakedale Park Lane, Katy, Texas.
And Jeff, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And when you did you have your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And Jeff, have you reviewed and have familiarity with, the land matters as well as the geology and engineering related issues associated with the proposed spacing units we're seeking to develop today?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'd move the testimony of Mr. Brem be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Jeff, let's start with exhibit number 1. Can you take us through that land exhibit?
Yes. We are, Phoenix Energy Partners is associated with Five Stage Energy Development, and we have acquired leases in the area to the east of the Rocky Hill Field. And Exhibit 1 shows a portion of those leases acquired and the working interest therein. And I've also numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4, the proposed spacing units that we are asking for as well.
Okay. And Jeff, just before we move on from the land exhibit, you're aware that the application has been filed on behalf of Mercury Resources LLC. Can you just explain that and the relationship?
Yes. So Five States Energy Development is the entity that owns the leases in the area, but Mercury Resources is going to be the contract operator for the first well.
Okay. And then also, currently, I believe 5, 8, and 17 are within the existing boundaries of the Rocky Hill Field outline, and you're also seeking to extend that boundary to include 9 and 16, and then have those additional, I guess it would be stand-up 640s included within Rocky Hill Field, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And let's move on then to, I guess, the more geology-related exhibits, beginning with E2, Exhibit 2.
Okay. This is a kind of a stratigraphic column, I guess you could say, or type log for the Sun 10-7 well, which is within the Rocky Hill Field. And it shows gamma ray on the left and the porosity and bulk volume water curves on the right. It also shows the target zone for the 3 existing wells that are within the Rocky Hill Field, which is also the target zone of our proposed well. In the lower right is a summary of the reservoir parameters for that well.
Okay. let's move on to E3, if you can just walk us through that, that map.
Okay. Exhibit 3 is the net pay thickness, using a 9% porosity and 65% water saturation cutoff. Contours are in feet. So this is the thickness of the target zone in what we are referring to as the lower B, and that's in Exhibit 2. And it shows where our proposed first well is in Section 8, which is adjacent to the Rocky Hill field, or the wells in the Rocky.
Okay. Let's move on to the porosity map that you have marked as Exhibit 4.
Yeah, this is average for the B zone target, and it shows where our proposed well is, and the porosity trend extending up into the Rocky Hill field.
Okay. Let's move on to the cross-section that you have, Exhibit number 5.
This is a cross section that goes from west to east, from the Logan well, which is just west of the Rocky Hill field. It goes across the Rocky Hill field and then over to 2 wells that are in Section 9 of 138.99. And it shows the correlations which I've made for the reservoir through the area. There is a small blue arrow that points to the target zone that we're intending to exploit, and that is in between the Sun 10-7 and the William Beaudoin number 1.
Okay. And Jeff, we are seeking to extend the field boundaries of the current Rocky Hill field to include 9 and 16. In your opinion, is the Madison in 9 and 16, is that part of the same common source of supply as within the existing Rocky Hill field boundaries?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Let's move on then to your Exhibit 6. Can you just walk us through what development would look like with the wells on these proposed spacing units?
Okay. We are proposing multiple trilateral wells in the space of the newly spaced units, the 960s and the 640s, in the manner which you see there. And these are designed such that we can have 6 laterals across per mile, while maintaining an interwell or interlateral distance of 880 feet. We are asking for the stand-up 960s so that we can maintain that same 880-foot spacing between other wells in both within the spacing units and also adjacent to the spacing units and other spacing units next to them, such that the interwell distance is maintained at 880 feet. And you can see that in the diagram on the right there in Exhibit 6.
Sure.
We so intending by doing this, we can also minimize the surface footprint with fewer well locations.
Okay.
And this also, one other thing to mention, this also maximizes the coverage area of the trilateral well, such that we can increase the sort of the drainage efficiency of this pattern of development.
Okay. And let's move on to Exhibit 7 then. What are you looking at with respect to proposed setbacks?
Referring to the previous Exhibit 6, the inner lateral spacing of 880 feet would give us 6 laterals across per mile. And if we continue that lateral spacing to adjacent drilling spacing units such that that 880 feet is maintained, we would need a modified setback on the, I guess you could say, the sides of the DSUs, the east and west sides of the DSU of 440. So this is a change from 500 feet to 440 feet. We are also asking for a reduced setback on the north and south ends. I guess you could say the heel and toe ends of it. And that is approximately what we calculate as the drainage radius for a given lateral in the area. So as not to drain adjacent or minerals.
Sure. So you've done some evaluation and are confident that based on your well design with these proposed setbacks that you won't be draining any adjacent lands?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to exhibit number 8. Just kind of take us through what sort of your full development might look like.
This is a sort of a preliminary development as we see it right at the moment. So you can see the first proposed well is the Rocky Hill 1-8, which is outlined in, or which is colored in red. We would then continue this development in the same kind of pattern to cover the area shown in this plat in Exhibit 8. So all the wells are similar. They all have similar offsets to each other, and so on, using the proposed setback changes.
Okay. And Jeff, just to clarify, like you don't have depicted a well in the east half of 9, but there you do, I guess, eventually would be looking at a well in those lands as well, and you are still asking for the 640 acre spacing, or excuse me, 640 on 9 and 16.
We don't currently have a well plan for 9, but that's not to say that one could not be drilled there. In this, on this diagram, these are the wells that we would start with as a primary development.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to exhibit number 9, Jeff, and if you can summarize the economics and the reservoir data that you have.
Okay. The expected well cost that we're looking at for this for a well in this development is $4.65 million. We are anticipating an ultimate recovery of somewhere around 800,000 barrels for such a well for a return on investment of 6.44.
Okay. And Jeff, if the relief were to be granted and you get these proposed spacing units and develop as you've indicated, in your opinion, is that going to prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
I do believe so, yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Jeff, on your exhibit number 7, if a 440-foot east-west setback is granted, where would you drill the well?
Okay. That actually is shown in Exhibit 6 as well. So in Exhibit 6, the setbacks are already included in the diagram on the right. So the well would actually be drilled from a location in the section just to the north, section 5. We would sort of drill straight down and land the curve such that the casing point would be right at the setback line at 440 feet. And then we would then proceed with the open hole part of the lateral as shown by the three legs, which are three different colors there, in that fashion.
So if you have a 440-foot setback, you think you can drill at 440 feet and not cross over?
Are you referring to the lateral along the setback lines?
Correct.
Yeah, those would be. We would probably utilize a sort of a drilling window within which we would stay to not cross over that 440-foot setback line.
And what is that window?
I would say probably plus or minus 30 or 40 feet. I believe we can stay within such a window.
On exhibit number 8, you're asking on the eastern or western side for stand-up 960s. What's the timing of developing that 960?
We are currently planning on initiating our first well in early 2023. And we would, weather and conditions permitting, we would continue with that development throughout 2023 in the fashion or the manner that you see in that Exhibit 8. So we would have essentially one rig and one well.
So let's look at the west halves of sections 5, 8, and 17. What time frame would that west half get developed in?
I would say within 2023. I'm not sure at the present time. It's going to depend on results, of course. What the order would be, whether after the first well, the Rocky Hill 1-8. But we would proceed to develop that in a kind of as soon as possible.
So if your results aren't favorable, what's the chances of developing the north end or the south end?
Well, it's always going to be dependent on results. But we would evaluate and proceed accordingly.
So,
but I believe also that given the results of the wells just to the west there and the performance of those wells, that I believe that our results will be favorable.
So given the unknown timing of development, since you don't know what your results are, it would appear this is a stand-up 320-acre spacing development would be more protective of relative rights, wouldn't it?
No, I don't believe so. I believe that we can actually develop more efficiently using stand-up 960s. And I also believe that we want to establish the pattern such that we can continue without amendments.
But if you only drill the first well, how does that protect the rights of those owners in the west half of 5 and the west half of 17.
Well, I believe that we would drill those wells to protect those rights.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, would you be opposed to a requirement that you weren't able to complete one of those wells? You say your Rocky 1-8 well until the other 2 wells in the spacing unit had been drilled?
Delay completion.
Right, to make sure we had all wells in place before any of them started producing.
I think that probably would. I'm not sure that economically we could do that. We would certainly want to start producing the 1-8 to evaluate it first, and but we would have to go back and evaluate the economic impact on us to see what that would do to us.
Okay, well, to Mark's point, if there's a chance that any one of these 3 wells wouldn't be developed because the results on the first well were unfavorable, it wouldn't appear that spacing them on the stand-up 960 would be appropriate, and that 320-acre spacing unit for the wells would be appropriate. Could you drill the wells you're proposing on 320-acre spacing units?
Yes, it could be done.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, this is Bruce Hicks. If the commission were to determine that your proposals would not protect correlative rights, would you want the commission to space this on 320-acre spacing if the commission felt that that was necessary to protect them?
So then we would, we certainly could proceed with a development of 320s. That's correct.
You know, the wells have a huge payout as proposed and shown with the 800,000 EUR on each well and a return on investment over 6. Have you penciled out what your economics would be if you developed that strictly on 320s? And I realize you would cut back a little bit on reserves on your laterals. But have you done the economics on 320?
We actually have, yes, previously.
Could you submit those to us?
Certainly.
Looking at the production on the wells to the west that you mentioned in sections 6, 7, and 18, the 1-6H in section 6 has cumed 172,000 barrels. The 1 and 7 is 259,000, considerably more. And then the one down in section 18 is only cumed 46,000. And that's quite a disparity, you know, from looking from section to section. Could we expect some of the same results in the offsetting sections that you're proposing?
Our belief is that the 3 wells that you see there, taking them case by case, the Rocky Hill 118, if you look at where the 118 is located on Exhibit 3, it is in a relatively poor, or Exhibits 3 and 4, in a relatively poorer position compared to where the Rocky Hill 1-7, the 1-6, or the proposed 1-8 well. The second thing is there that both the Rocky Hill 1-7 and 1-6 have lateral length of plus or minus 4,000 feet. I don't remember the exact numbers. Our trilateral that we are proposing has a total well length of about 15,500 feet, and it is draining different parts of the reservoir with each with its own drainage radius. So we are proposing essentially a well that is a little bit less than 4 times as long. And that is based on some other studies and parameters that we've looked at in this area and in other areas. So we do not believe that we will replicate the results of wells that are much, much shorter.
Okay, and my point wasn't that you were gonna have similar production on your wells, although what I was getting at is that the production per foot of each one of those sections is quite a bit different from one another.
That's correct. And our interpretation of this is based on a number of other parameters which are sort of larger than just this area, including structural trends and fracture densities, and which are that's one parameter that is affecting their production, and the other is the manner in which these wells were produced, the pump capacity, and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, one more set of questions real quick. You were indicating that your 400-foot setback reduction, or your reduction of setbacks at the heel and toe to 400 feet from 500 feet was based on drainage calculations. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Could you provide an exhibit that would support that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please do.
Okay.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, Mr. Mann, there were some requests for supplements. What kind of timeline do you need for those?
Jeff, we need to submit the economics for 320s and the calculation to support the reduced setback. How long you think it'll take? Is 2 weeks enough to get that?
Oh, certainly, I can provide that in less time than that.
Would a week be fine?
I think a week would be more than enough.
Okay. Mr. Examiner, a week from today?
All right, so 1 week from today, I believe that is October 5th. The record will remain open for those supplemental exhibits until October 5th. Are there anything further on this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
Then that will conclude the hearing in case number 29565. The time is 10:08 a.m. Why don't we take a quick recess before the next case?
Quick recess. Can we just go outside and play?
We are back on the record. We will move on to case number 29566. Application of Cornerstone Natural Resources LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Northeast Foothills Bakken Pool, Burke County, ND, to terminate 3 stand-up 1920 acre space units described as sections 4, 9, and 16, section 21, 28, and 33, and sections 20, 29, and 32, Township 161 North, Range 91 West, to establish 3 1280 acre space units described as sections 16 and 21, sections 28 and 33, and sections 29 and 32, in Township 161 North, Range 91 West, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on each such unit, and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Cornerstone Natural Resources, LLC. I have 2 witnesses appearing telephonically, Sarah Garrett and Eric Lipinski, and they should be on.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
All right. We'll begin with Ms. Garrett. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Sarah, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
You bet. My name is Sarah Garrett. I'm a landman for Cornerstone Natural Resources, and our business address is 3190 South Vaughn Way, Suite 550, Aurora, Colorado.
And Sarah, have you previously testified before this commission?
I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
Okay, and Sarah, you're familiar with the land matters associated with the hearing?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Garrett be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Sarah, let's go ahead and go through your land exhibits, beginning with exhibit number 1.
Okay, this basically just shows the lay of the land as it exists currently, with the existing Bakken wells surrounding the area in question in the dark black outlined areas, and specifically the well in sections 27 and 34 is a Cornerstone well, the Martinson, and the dashed lines are the units that were established in 2019 by Petro Harvester. They created 1920 acre drilling units. And so basically that's it for exhibit 1. That's the lay of the land currently.
Yep, let's go ahead and move on to exhibit 2, if you can kind of describe what you're looking at with respect to development.
Yep, basically this is our proposal today in trying to get the 1920 acre unit resolved and to put back into place the 1280 acre unit that Cornerstone has successfully done just next door and the surrounding, so to create a unit of 16 and 21, 28, 33, and 29 and 32.
And let's move on to exhibit number 3.
Okay, and so this sort of compares the two, and we realized that in looking at these, it would leave, I won't say it would leave, because if the 1920 acre units are dissolved, then, the goal would be to come back, if these wells are successful, and to reface the remainder of those sections in the dash lines that would be in the old 1920 acre units, and reface them back into the 1280 acre units and to continue development in that area so that, none of the sections would be isolated. So we would come back and try to reface 17 and 20 into a 1280 unit and 30 and 31, et cetera. So that would be the eventual goal.
Sure, that makes sense. And then let's go ahead and move on then, exhibit number 4, what you're looking at for your working interest in these proposed 1280s.
Okay. Yeah, in the first unit, the 16 and 21, in this northern unit, we've got about 69% of the unit leased and are actively working on additional, with additional landowners. And there is a small portion of another working interest owner, Liberty Resources, who took a along with Petro Harvester in 2018, took a considerable amount of leases in the area, and they own about 15% in section 28 and 33. Sorry, I think I was confusing my units there. So Liberty owns about 6% working interest in section 21. So they own a small portion, and Cornerstone is actively working on the rest. In the section, in the units 28 and 33, Cornerstone owns about 64%. That's the one where Liberty owns about 16%. And all of their leases are set to expire early in February to May of next year. And so we're unsure about the timing of, once we have a rig and the timing of the wells getting drilled. So we're waiting to find out when our actual start date would be to contact them once we have our timing down a little more. And then the final unit, section 29 and 32, where we don't have quite as much working interest. That is the one where the majority of the leases that are still in a primary term to other partners or to other working interest owners. There's a bit owned by, the leases were taken by Petro Harvester and are now owned by Formentera partners, and we have not yet spoken with them, again, due to the same reason many of the leases are due to expire February through May, and we're waiting to nail down our timing. We do have still about 35% that we're working with, of the landowners to actively lease as well in that unit.
Okay. That is all the questions I have for Ms. Garrett. I'd offer the land exhibits 1 through 4.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Sarah, do you have Cornerstone's ownership numbers in 17 and 20?
I don't believe we own any acreage there currently.
So no ownership in either of them currently?
I can look that up for you in a moment. If you'd like to bear with me or come back, but I can definitely get that information for you. 100%. I'll let you know.
If it's going to take a minute, we can move on, but just let us know before the end, or we'll ask for a supplemental or something.
Mr. Nelson, if I could just recall Ms. Garrett after Mr. Lipinski and see if she's had an opportunity to.
Sure. That would be fine.
Sarah, is Cornerstone actively leasing in all this area in the west half of the township?
Currently, we are actively leasing in the 3 units that we have outlined.
So if the commission were to respace all this area in 1280s, would Cornerstone have an objection to that?
I don't believe so. Eric, do you have, I might also ask Eric that question, but I don't believe so.
We can defer that to Mr. Lipinski if that's maybe more appropriate for him.
Okay.
Sir, this is Bruce Hicks. You talked about Liberty, you said owned some interest in 21, is that right?
Yes.
And Liberty has had numerous applications for 1920s. This is actually going the opposite of what they've come in for on numerous applications. They go from 1280s to 1920s, and you're doing the opposite here. Have you had any contact with them on, are they aware of this application, and have you had any contact with them?
We have not.
Okay, and Formentera, they took over the Petro Harvester interests in the area, correct?
Yes.
And have you had any contact with them at all?
We have not. We we're just early in the leasing process, and the majority of their leases is likely to expire, prior to our drilling. So, like I said, we were hoping to get, our date nailed down just a bit first.
Good, thank you.
Any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Mr. Lipinski. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Eric, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Eric Lipinski. I am employed by Cornerstone Natural Resources, LLC. I am title as president. Our address is 3190 South Vaughn Way, Suite 550, Aurora, Colorado, 80014.
And Eric, you're president. How about your your professional background?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a degree geologist, and
Sure.
so prior to assuming the role as president, I think I was geologic manager or geoscience manager at Cornerstone.
And Eric, I believe have you previously testified before this commission?
I have,
And you've had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
yes,
And you have familiarity with the geology and engineering related matters with respect to these proposed spacing units?
I do.
Okay. I'd move the testimony of Mr. Lipinski be received as that of an expert in these cases.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
All right. And Eric, let's start with your exhibit number 5, that type log that you have.
Sure. So Cornerstone in the respacing of these units is targeting the Middle Bakken. This is a type log from about 6 miles to the northeast of the subject area. And what's shown here is the Upper Bakken Shale, the Middle Bakken target interval, and the Lower Bakken Shale. In our area, we're targeting about 45 to 47 feet of Middle Bakken.
Okay. Let's move on then to your structure map, exhibit 6.
Yep, this is a structure contour map on top of the Bakken Formation, on top of the first shale. Contour interval is 100 feet, and it shows uniform monoclinal dip to the southwest.
Okay. And the ISOPAC map, the next exhibit.
ISOBAC map of the Middle Bakken member on a 1 foot contour interval, and you can see across the proposed units it's ranging anywhere from say 47 to 48 feet. I just called the average thickness 47.
Sure. And then let's move on to exhibit number 8. Can you just take us through how you intend to develop the proposed spacing units?
Yeah, so exhibit number 8 shows the 3 stand-up 1280s, and we have 3 proposed wells. The initial well would be drilled 1,220 feet from either the east or west boundary as depicted with the dotted lines. The arrows are pointing in the direction of the well path. And it is our intent right now to drill these from a common pad. We're working with a surface owner currently in the southwest quarter of Section 21 to establish a common pad for the drilling of each well.
Okay. And Eric, I think you heard Mr. Bohr's question with respect to if you'd be opposed to just putting the whole west half of that township back on 1280. And Mr. Hicks indicated that I believe Liberty had been looking at 1920s in the area. Can you just address that, and based on your evaluation of the area and your experience operating in 27 and 34, what your position is with respect to the 1280s versus 1920s?
Sure.
I believe this area was originally spaced, or most recently prior to the 1920s, spaced as 1280s. I think June 2011, Cornerstone had some hearings that spaced many of these as 1280s. I was a little bit surprised in 2019 when Petro Harvester, who hadn't drilled any Bakken wells in the area, came in and spaced these as 1920s. So it's our experience with the number of Bakken wells that we've drilled in Burke County, in this portion of Burke County, that 1280 is the most appropriate development plan. I'm not opposed at all to respacing that whole west half of 16191 as in more uniform 1280 development. And you see we're kind of in between 1280s and in 16192, and then existing development in 16191. I mean, obviously this area progressed from 640s to 1280s, and we looked at the 1920 economics, and we don't feel that that's the way to develop here.
Okay. Let's move on to exhibit number 9. Can you just explain how you would intend to drill and complete the wells on the 1280s?
Yeah, these would be 7-inch casing set through the bend, 4.5-inch cemented liner, perf and plug. We're looking at anywhere from 32 to 50 stages with a perf and plug cemented liner.
Okay. And then moving on to exhibit number 10, can you summarize the reservoir data and economics for us?
Yep. So Exhibit 10 is a summary of our internal economics. Volumetrically, we use 45 feet of gross middle Bakken thickness with a porosity of 6%. In this portion of Burke County, we've got pretty high water saturation. We use a 50% water saturation. Running through the volumetrics, we come up with a little over 11 million barrels of oil in place on 1,280 acres. At a 3% recovery is about 335,000 barrels, stock tank barrels. We use an $8.5 million drill and complete cost, and you can see on here, at the time we ran these economics, we used $100 a barrel. It's obviously a little less than that. We don't anticipate drilling these wells till the first quarter of 2023. But at the $100 barrel oil price, it's about a 28% rate of return and a little over a 2-year payout.
Okay. Eric, in your opinion, if the relief's granted and these 1,280 acre spacing units are created, is that going to prevent waste, protect relative rights, prevent drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the engineering exhibits. I believe it's 5 through 10 in the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Eric, are you currently planning, sorry, I'm looking at Exhibit 8. Are you currently planning on drilling more than one well on each 1280?
With the initial drilling in 2023, we anticipate just drilling one well per drilling unit. But Cornerstone is ultimately making plans to come back and infill several of their units. We're just trying to put enough scale together to warrant that effort.
Will it be based on economics from these wells?
Well, obviously, we need to see the results of what we're planning. So the short answer to that is yes.
Good, thanks.
Eric, this is Bruce Hicks. As you indicated on Exhibit 10, you used $100 as your oil price. Have you ran the rate of return at $80 WTI, which is the current price?
To be honest with you, Bruce,
I've got several runs ranging from 60 to 100. I mean, if you need the 80, I can get it to you. I don't have it up in front of me.
And evidently, the $60 to $80 price was still economic and under your guidelines for return on investment, is that right?
Yeah, it gets a little tight at 60. We would probably move forward if we had a WTI of 80, based on our internal investors' parameters.
And you had indicated that it just didn't look favorable for the 1920s. What was it in the data that you didn't like? Do you think that last mile doesn't provide as much reserves as the first two, or what is it that you don't like about the 1920s?
That is precisely our opinion. We don't see the benefit of that additional mile. But remember, you're moving a bunch of water in this portion of Burke, so it's different. We're normally pressured here, and we've got such a high water saturation. Our wells typically average about a 20% oil cut at the end of the day. And we've looked at our 640 development versus our 1280 development, and that's how we based our opinion that the additional mile, it's just, we don't see the cost benefit of it in reserves. Now, I will also admit there aren't any drilled in Burke County, so we got to go with what we know right now.
You indicated that the southwest of 21 is where you're looking for a surface location to drill all three wells, and you would batch drill all three, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and then also complete at the same time?
Correct. And in addition, Bruce, we're planning on putting a saltwater disposal well on that same pad to benefit the economics. I mean, trucking with this volume of water is killer to the economics.
Okay, and I do have just one question for Sarah. Under the spacing unit of 29 and 32, of course, you don't have a 50% interest. Will you be working with other working interest owners on operatorship?
Yes, we probably have enough in the works with unleased mineral owners that hopefully in the next month we would have a 50% working interest. But yes, we would absolutely work with the other leasehold owners.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions from commission staff?
Were you gonna recall Sarah for 17?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, we can go ahead and recall Sarah if you want.
Sarah, were you able to get the information that Mr. Suggs was looking for with respect to section 17 and 20?
Yes, we do not have any leasehold there currently. We have in the past since we have a relationship with the landowners, but currently our existing leasehold is on the east side of the township, and along with what we are currently leasing within those 3 units.
That's all I had.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none? All right, nothing further, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
That will conclude the hearing in case number 29566. Moving on. Case number 29567. Application of Marathon Oil Company for an order amending the applicable orders for the Killdeer Bakken Pool, Dunn County, ND, to terminate an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 4, 5, 8, and 9, Township 145 North, Range 94 West, reduce the setback to 250 feet on either side of the common boundary between stand-up 1280 acre space units described as sections 4 and 9, and sections 5 and 8, Township 145 North, Range 94 West, and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Marathon Oil Company. And I have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically: Taylor Roberts, Sarah Beth Donaldson, and Andrea Mateos. I'll call them now. Hey, Taylor, you got everybody there? All right.
Your first witness was Taylor Roberts. Can you hear me?
I can, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under the penalties of perjury, that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, sir.
Taylor, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. My name is Taylor Roberts. I'm a land professional for Marathon Oil Company with a business address of 990 Town and Country Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77024.
And Taylor, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, sir, I have.
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're familiar with the land matters associated with the hearing today?
Yes, sir.
I'd move the testimony of Mr. Roberts be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
All right, Taylor, let's start with exhibit number L1.
Sure. Exhibit L1 shows our 2 stand-up 1280s being in Township 145 North, 94 West, Dunn County, Sections 4 and 9, and Sections 5 and 8, outlined by the dash marks on the exhibit.
Okay. And moving on to L2, can you take us through your working interest in these spacing units?
Sure. As I previously described, we have Sections 4 and 9 and 5 and 8. One thing to note, the working interest listed in the bottom left for Marathon Oil Company is an error. I have 69.28% listed for Marathon. I can submit, if requested or upon request, a corrected Exhibit L2. But for the 2 reduced setback wells, Marathon's ownership in each would be 77.23% for the western one and 42.75% for the eastern one. So I know that's a little bit different than what's on this exhibit, and I apologize.
Okay, I have no further questions that offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Taylor, this is Bruce Hicks. Marathon is operator of both current 1280s, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I assume that you've contacted other working interest owners in 4 and 9, and they have no objection to you drilling this additional well?
I've had high-level conversations with the higher interest owners in that unit, but we would definitely follow up with them and see if they have any opposition.
Thank you.
I guess, would the existing spacing units for the 1280s allow the, what I assume is a 1 well in each of the 1280s as opposed to the overlapping 2560 well?
If I may, Mr. Suggs, we do have on the admin docket for today an increased density application for 5 and 8, which should allow for the full development that Marathon's looking for.
Okay, thanks.
So Wade, when we look at the overall development, we can look at both cases?
Yes. Yep.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Ms. Donaldson, can you hear me?
I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Sarah Beth, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, and in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sarah Beth Donaldson. I am an advanced geologist at Marathon Oil Corporation, located at 990 Town and Country Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77024.
And Sarah Beth, have you previously testified before this commission?
No, I have not.
Can I have you just briefly take us through your educational background and work experience?
Of course. Yeah. So I've been employed as a geologist at Marathon Oil for approximately 9.5 years, and currently as the Bakken Development Geologist for 2 months after Greg Gurachowski transferred to another asset within the company. I started my career after receiving a Bachelor's of Science in Geology from Louisiana State University and a Master's of Science in Geology from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. My first stint within Marathon Oil, I was an operations geologist for the Eagle Ford asset for 3 years. In this role, I would plan geosphere Eagle Ford and Austin Chalk wells, avoiding all drilling hazards and maximize footage within our geologic target window. Then I moved on to the Eagle Ford subsurface team as a development geologist, where I stayed there for 2.5 years. In this role, I prepared wells to become drill ready by optimizing our well placement and updating our current POD by planning Eagle Ford and Austin Chalk wells to be drilled in our most productive acreage. I work closely with our resource exploration and business development teams, doing true evaluations of our potential acreage proposals and lookbacks. Then I became a geological operations team lead for 2 years, where I managed well planning and geosteering for our core basins, which included the Bakken, Eagle Ford, Oklahoma, Permian, and our exploration ventures. Then at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a major reorg across the company, where then I was placed into a team called Data Solutions, where I represented all of geosciences across the company. I spent 2 years in that position, where I updated and maintained high data accuracy across all systems, created multidisciplinary technical attribute tables from 7 different sources, and by integrating them into our Snowflake cloud platform. While this role was very technology-driven, I still maintained my geological sense by helping drive decisions and conclusions for all assets within our integrated performance organization.
Okay, and Sarah Beth, are you familiar? Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, that was it.
Okay, and are you familiar with the geology underlying the 1280s that we're seeking the reduced setbacks upon?
Yes, there I am.
I'd move the testimony of Ms. Donaldson be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Sarah Beth, let's start with Exhibit G1, if you can just walk us through your structure map.
Of course. So depicted in this is the Upper Bakken Trail structure map with a contour interval of 20 feet. Across our 2560 acre spacing unit marked by the red dashed box, it does have a dip change of a maximum of 3 degrees. We do have offset wells where we can use to help geosteer across that acreage. From A to A prime, it's going to be our cross section noted in Exhibit G2.
Okay. And let's move on to G2, if you can just take us through your cross-section exhibit.
First, in Exhibit G2, the cross-section line, made A prime, represents our middle Bakken and 3/4 first bench target intervals. You can see across both of these, this is very relative to our current unit acre spacing. Very minimal thickness variations across, but less than 5 feet.
Okay. And then let's move on to G3. If you can just take us through that exhibit and kind of walk us through what your proposed development plan would be for both of the 1280s, after we terminate the 2560. Just take us through that.
Of course. Yeah. So by terminating the existing 2560 acre spacing, we're proposing to do 2 reduced setback wells at the stand-up 2080 acre unit spacings. With the reduced setback wells, they're at 250 feet off either side of the stand-up 1280 acre spacing units,
Both the Middle Bakken and the Three Forks first fence reduced setback wells will be drilled and completed at approximately the same time, with flowback as close as possible within succession of one another. This is part of a 9-well pad that will be batch drilled an estimated spud date of April 2023, which will be zipper fracked. The plat includes 5 wells to be drilled north to south from this current surface hole location, with 4 wells drilling from south to north. In order to properly optimize this DSU, we plan to drill the other wells within the unit acre spacing to be drilled from the same pad, but drilled with additional wells to the south.
Okay. I have no further questions for Ms. Donaldson. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Sarah Beth, since you're presenting the development plan here, what's your ideal interwell distance?
For our current spacing, this is, if you have some feedback. Right now, we're doing more of a 5x5, so 5 Middle Bakkens, 5 Three Forks across this DSU. This will have approximate footage of 500 feet.
So what's your interwell distance between, say, Middle Bakken wells and between a Middle Bakken and a Three Forks well?
Between 2 Middle Bakkens, it would be approximately 1,000 to 1,200 feet, and then same thing with the Three Forks. But between Middle Bakken and Three Forks, it's 500 to 540 feet.
Okay.
Well spacing.
And how far off of the section line do you plan to place the well in 4 and 9?
We are requesting a 250 foot off the section line. However, just due to current spacing wells, we probably do 270 foot maximum.
So the well would be approximately 270 off the west line?
Correct.
And then the other well off the
Would mirror
line
it,
of 5 and 8?
270. Mm-hmm.
270 again?
Yes. Yeah, both wells will be as identical as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Ms. Mateos. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Andrea, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Andrea Mateos. I'm a reservoir engineer with Marathon Oil, and our business address is 990 Town and Country Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77024.
And Andrea, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes,
And have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
yes,
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Mateos be received as that of an expert in this case.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Andrea, if you could take us through your reservoir data and economics.
first. Okay, for the proposed wells, we have an expected production of 482,000 barrels of oil for the Middle Bakken wells and 427,000 barrels of oil for the Three Forks. The original oil in place for a 1,280-acre unit in this area is estimated to be around 18 million barrels of oil, which leads to a well recovery factor of around 5%. The wells are expected to have positive returns with a B-feed NPV10 of 3.4 million for the Middle Bakken wells and 2.9 million for Three Forks. The economics were run at a $50 per barrel WTI flat case, and the gas was $2.4.
Okay. And let's move on to E2, if you can just describe how you would drill and complete the proposed wells.
Yes, so we're going to follow our standard for this area, which is to run and cement each casing past the kickoff point, then to run and cement a 4.5-inch liner approximately 10,000 feet further. We will be completing 4 stages in a plug-and-perf manner, and the total work cost is expected to be around $7 million, and this includes location, facilities, and artificial lift costs.
And Andrea, in your opinion, if the commission grants this setback relief and you develop as Ms. Donaldson indicated, is that going to prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. Have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits. And just, Mr. Examiner, if we could hold the record open until the end of the week to get you the gas capture plan affidavit for this case.
Sure, the record will remain open until the end of the week, and the exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Andrea, this is Bruce Hicks. I didn't catch what your completed well costs were.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be around $7 million.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none, as mentioned before, the record will remain open for that gas capture affidavit till the end of the week. Anything further, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner, thank you.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 29567. Moving on. Case number 29568. Application of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Tioga and/or White Earth Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 2560 acre space unit described as sections 4, 5, 8, and 9, Township 157 North, Range 194 West, Montrose County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC. I'll have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically in this case and in the next case. And it'll be Jaden Emerson, Motun Akinpelu, and Aisha Keshemir. And I'll call them now. Wade Mann. You guys ready? Jaden? Okay.
All right, we will begin with Mr. Emerson. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Jaden, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Jaden Emerson. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as a senior land negotiator with the business address of 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Jaden, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with these hearings today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony, Mr. Emerson, be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Jaden, let's start with exhibit number 1, if I could have you identify the proposed spacing unit.
Yes, outlined in blue is Hess-operated existing stand-up 1,280 acre unit, comprised of section 5 and 8, 4 and 9, township 157 north, range 94 west. Outlining the underlying stand-up 1,280 acre DSUs is our requested Outlined in green is our requested 2560 DSU.
Okay, let's move on to exhibit number 2. Can you take us through the working interest?
Yes. Exhibit 2 sets forth the estimated leasehold working interest in the underlying spacing units in the overlapping 2560. Indicated in blue is sections 5 and 8 are Hess-operated Ian Lock-in DSU, in which Hess owns 92% working interest. Indicated in yellow, sections 4 and 9, Hess-operated Ian Jorstad DSU, in which Hess owns 80%. In the requested 2560 overlapping spacing unit, Hess owns 86%, Northern Oil and Gas owns 5%, Jordan Exploration owns 2%, Doris Hogan owns 2%, and other owners own 6%.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 1 and 2.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to your next witness, Ms. Akinpelu. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Motoon, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Motoon Akinpelu. I am currently employed as an operations geologist for Hess Corporation, located at 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, zip code 77010.
And Motoon, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I'd move that the testimony of Ms. Akinpelu be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Motoon, let's start with your exhibit 3, the structure map.
All right. Yes. So the Exhibit 3 shows the location of our existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 DSU in green. This is a top middle Bakken structure map presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the southeast. The line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Okay, and let's move on to that cross-section, exhibit 4.
So Exhibit 4 is a stratigraphics cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the area.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for Ms. Akinpelu in this case. That offers 3 and 4.
And the exhibit, or did you offer the exhibit? Sorry, I meant.
Yes,
Sorry.
yep.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Ms. Keshemir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, can I have you state your name, by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. My name is Aisha Kashmir, employed by Hess Corporation as a reservoir engineer. The business address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Aisha, have you previously testified before this commission?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Keshemir be received as that of an expert.
The testimony will be received as that of an expert.
And Aisha, if you can take us through exhibit number 5 and explain how you would intend to develop the spacing unit.
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for Section 4, 5, and Section 8 and 9. The bold dashed line is the proposed well, and it will be drilled in the middle Bakken formation from the same pad as the infill well.
Okay, let's move on to exhibit 6, the reservoir data and economics.
Sure. Exhibit 6 shows reservoir and economic summary for a single middle Bakken well in East Nesson area. The expected EUR is around 630,000 barrels with 2.1% recovery factor. Economics will run at $62 per barrel flat WTI, and 100% working interest. Expected NPV is around $9 million with 80% rate of return.
Okay. And Aisha, in your opinion, would creation of the overlapping spacing unit for that section line well, is that going to prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes.
I have no further questions that offer exhibits 5 and 6 and the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Aisha, how far off the section line is this well proposed?
It's around 100 feet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none, anything further in this matter, Mr. Mann?
Not in this case, thank you, Mr. Examiner.
Then that will conclude the hearing in case number 29568. Case number 29569. Application of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Tioga Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 25 and 36, Township 157 North, Range 95 West, and sections 30 and 31, Township 157 North, Range 94 West, Williams and Montreal Counties, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC, and I have the same 3 witnesses testifying.
Sure. And we will accept their credentials as experts since they testified earlier, but we will swear them in again. Mr. Emerson, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and Jaden, let's start with exhibit number 1, if you could identify the proposed spacing unit.
Sure. Exhibit 1 is the location map of the Tioga Bakken Pool, Township 157 North, Range 95 West, and Township 157 North, Range 94 West. Outlined in blue is the Hess existing Hess-operated stand-up 1280 acre DSUs, and outlined in green is our requested 2560 acre DSU, comprised of section 25, 36, 30, and 31.
Okay, let's move on to exhibit 2. Can you take us through your working interest?
Yes, Exhibit 2 sets forth the estimated leasehold working interest ownership. Indicated in blue is Hess's T.I. Larson DSU, comprised of sections 25 and 36, in which Hess owns 97%. Indicated in yellow is Hess's DSU, called the T.I. Nelson, comprised of sections 30 and 31, in which Hess owns 89%. In the requested 2560 acre spacing unit, Hess owns 93%, All American Holdings owns 1%, BNSF Railroad owns 1%, and other owners own approximately 5%.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 1 and 2.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Ms. Akinpalu, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Motun, let's start with exhibit number 3, and if you could just take us through that structure map.
All right, Exhibit 3 is showing the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 in green. This is a top middle Bakken structure map showing that the formation is dipping to the south. The line A to A prime is showing the wells used in the cross section in Exhibit 4.
Okay, and if you can take us through the cross section that you have marked as exhibit 4.
Exhibit 4 is a stratigraphic cross section flattened at the top of the Bakken, showing that the formation is laterally continuous throughout the area.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 3 and 4.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Ms. Keshemir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, let's start with exhibit number 5. Can you explain how you developed this proposed spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development for section 25, 30, and section 31 and 36. The bold dashed line is the proposed well and will be drilled in the Milwaukee formation, the same pad as the infill well.
Okay, and let's move on to exhibit 6. If you can summarize the reservoir data and economics.
Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single Milwaukee well in Tioga area. The expected EUR is at around 600,000 barrels with 1.5% recovery factor. Economics were run at $62 WTI flat and 100% working interest with an expected MPV of $10 million.
Okay. And Aisha, in your opinion, would creation of this spacing unit for the lease line well protect waste or protect Krell rights and prevent waste?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Anything further in this matter, Mr. Mann?
No, Mr. Examiner.
And that will conclude the hearing in case number 29569. I think we have to do a changeover here, right?
Yeah, I'll just leave
What-
the line open. I believe Mr. Lawrence has the same witnesses. So.
We'll move on to case number 29570. Application of Hesbachen Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Big Butte and/or Alger Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 13 and 24, Township 156 North, Range 94 West, and sections 18 and 19, Township 156 North, Range 93 West, Montreal County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Ronald Borax with Kuiper Law Firm, PLLC, 165 South Union Boulevard, Suite 300, Lakewood, Colorado. I'm appearing in this case on behalf of Hesbachen Investments 2 LLC. I have the same 3 witnesses that appeared in the prior 2 cases. Would you like them reintroduced?
No, that's all right, and we will accept their qualifications as experts, but I will swear them in again for this case. So I guess beginning with Mr. Emerson, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Begin.
Jaden, are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let's start with Exhibit 1. If you could identify the spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 1 is a location map of Township 156 North, Range 94 West, and Township 156 North, Range 93 West. Indicated in the red outline is the Hess-operated existing underlying 2560-acre spacing unit, comprised of sections 15, 16, 17, and 18, Township 156 North, Range 93 West. Beneath that laydown unit is a Grayson Mill-operated DSU comprised of section 19 and 30, indicated by the blue outline. To the west of that, in section 13 and 24, is a Hess-operated stand-up 1280, indicated by the blue boundary. And outlined in green is our requested 2560 spacing unit comprised of section 13, 24, 18, and 19.
Good. Okay, let's move on to Exhibit 2. Could you summarize the working interest in the spacing unit for us?
Sure. Exhibit 2 sets forth the estimated leasehold working interest ownership. Indicated in blue is Hess's operated laydown 2560 called the Ian State, in which Hess owns 73% working interest. Grayson Mill owns 14% working interest, Northern owns 4% working interest, and other owners own 10% working interest. Indicated in green is the Grayson Mill operated Brown 30-19 DSU, in which Hess owns 0.4% working interest. Grayson Mill owns 77% working interest. Northern Oil and Gas owns 9% working interest, and other owners own approximately 13% working interest. In the requested 2560 acre spacing, Hess owns 56% working interest. Grayson Mill owns 27% working interest. Northern Oil and Gas owns 8% working interest, and other owners comprise 9% working interest.
Mr. Examiner, I have no further questions for this witness and would seek admission of Exhibits 1 and 2.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to your next witness. Ms. Akinpalu, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Motun, could you please take us through Exhibit 3, the structure map?
All right, yes, the Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue, existing 2560 in orange, and the requested 2560 in green. This is a top middle Bakken structure map presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the southwest. The line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Good. Then could you take us through the cross-section in Exhibit 4, please?
So Exhibit 4 is a stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the area.
Mr. Examiner, I have no further questions for this witness and seek admission of their Exhibits 3 and 4.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none, we'll move on to Ms. Keshemir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, could you please walk us through Exhibit 5, the proposed development plan for the spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for Section 2413, Township 15694, and Section 1819, Township 15693. The bold dashed line is the proposed well and will be drilled in the Middle Bakken Formation from the same pad as the infill.
And let's move on to Exhibit 6. Can you take us through the reservoir data and economic summary, please?
Sure. Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single Middle Bakken well in East Nesson area. The expected EUR is around 700,000 barrels with 1.4% recovery factor. Economics will run at $62 per barrel WTI flat and 100% working interest. The expected net present value is around $10 million.
And in your opinion, would the proposed spacing unit with the lease line well prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes, it does.
Mr. Examiner, I have no further questions for this witness, and I move to admit Exhibits 5 and 6 and the gas capture plan affidavit for the record.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Aisha, this is Bruce Hicks. Looking at your Exhibit 5, where you show the lateral, it appears that it's just going to be on the west side of the last mile would be on the west side of, what is that, 18 and 13? Is that correct? Or would it be on the...
18 and 19.
Well, you're showing...
The last lot.
You're showing it, across the township. So we're looking, the second half of the lateral, is it on the east or west side of the section line?
Oh, on the west side, sorry.
Okay, and what is that distance?
It's around 50 feet.
Okay, and Hess is operator of both that laydown consisting of 18 and 17 and the stand-up to the west, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And the first part of the lateral would be Grayson Mill in section 19, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And is that right down the section line that you plan to drill?
Yeah, it's around 50 feet as well on the east side, yes. And it's going to be around 620 feet from Grayson Mill well.
Okay, and is there any reason why you're staying further from those wells on the west side versus the ones on the east side?
It's from depletion, to avoid depletion. I know the cum oil from our wells, so there is a Middle Bakken and Three Forks well, so we're trying to stay away from depletion as much as we can, and that's why if you can see the location of the lease line will be approximately 800 to 600 feet between both wells. And we apply we do our completion design accordingly, taking into account the depletion from both sides.
Okay, but this is a Middle Bakken well, and the Grayson Mills well directly to the east is also Middle Bakken, correct?
Correct, yes, correct.
And do you believe that the well to the west, your Ian Weefold well, has drained more from the Middle Bakken than the Grayson Mill well?
It's going to drain, like I was saying, it's going to be depending on the completion, but we believe it's going to be draining, making sure we're going to apply completion that's making sure we won't frack into Grayson Mill well. Which fracking less where we believe there is more completion and depletion, and put more proppant or entry point in the second half of the lateral.
And when do you plan to drill and complete the well?
It's spud on February 2024.
And will it also be batch drilled with other wells on that proposed surface location?
Correct. Actually, it's going to be batch with the other wells and with the next case, so we have another proposal. So it's going to be a 6-well batch.
We have had some correspondence back and forth between Grayson Mill and Hess, and Grayson Mill wanted to continue the case and Hess did not. Do you know why Hess wanted to move forward so fast on this, being that you weren't going to drill it for another year or so?
It's for planning purposes, so we usually need the spacing so we can start doing the permitting and looking at the bed. As you can see here, the pad location is an approximation, but we need to have a spacing order in order to start planning. And we plan ahead almost 18 months ahead to make sure that we get to build the pad on time. And we always prefer build summer builds. So we will need to be prepared by summer 2023 at least to build the pad for this pad to be able to start it in February 2024.
Is the issue that Grayson Mill and Hess have, is it the spacing of the well or is it the location of the horizontal that you plan to drill on it?
It's the spacing.
Okay, so they're wanting something other than a 2560 that you're proposing then? Is that correct?
They wanted, yes, correct. They wanted to drill. It's not drill. I think they wanted to operate the lease line on section 930 and 24 and 25.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Aisha, are you aware of any problems that would stem from doing 1930 and 2425 lease line well versus our proposed well, your proposed well?
It's the way, like we already have the lease line drilled and completed and actually producing in the southern part of the other lease line. I can't remember the section, to be honest with you, but doing it like the pad location, this is one part of it, and we're already having a planned lease line in the north section of 18 and 13. So by doing that, it's going to prevent us from having stranded sections.
And the stranded section would be where?
If we don't do this lease line, the stranded section will be the 18 and the 13. If Kristen Point, for example, drill the 9, 24, 25, 30, we won't be able to drill the 640 and the top one for section 18 and 13.
Yeah, I have no further questions.
Aisha, I want to make sure I understood correctly. On your Exhibit 5, the first mile of the lateral will be drilled 50 feet east of the section line?
West of the section line.
So 50 feet west on both miles?
Yes, it's going to be more on section 24, 13, which is west of the east section line.
The spacing unit that currently exists of 24, 25, 19, and 30, and I assume Hess wants that spacing unit terminated?
Yes.
And this application, in conjunction with the next one, will not strand the lease line between 36 and 31?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any further questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Anything further on this matter, Mr. Borax?
No, nothing further on this matter.
All right. Then that will conclude the hearing in case number 29570. Moving on. Case number 29571. Application of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Big Butte and/or Elger-Bakken pools to establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 25 and 36, Township 156 North, Range 94 West, and sections 30 and 31, Township 156 North, Range 93 West, Montrose County, ND, and authorize one horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. Will all interested parties please come forward?
Ronald Borax, on behalf of Hess-Bakken Investments 2 LLC. We have the same witnesses as the preceding case.
And again, we will accept their qualifications as experts, but we'll swear them into the record in this case. Mr. Emerson, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Jaden, starting with Exhibit 1, could you identify the spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 1 is a location map of Township 156 North, Range 94 West, and Township 156 North, Range 93 West. Indicated in the blue boundary, comprised of section 19 and 30 is the Grayson Mill, stand-up 1280 existing underlying spacing unit. Beneath that to the south is a Hess-operated 1280 stand-up spacing unit outlined in blue, comprised of section 31 and 6. And to the west side is Hess's operated stand-up 1280 indicated by the blue outline, comprised of section 25 and 36. Outlined as green is Hess's requested
2560 acre spacing unit, which encompasses sections 25, 36, 30, and 31.
And moving on to Exhibit 2, could you summarize the working interest in the spacing unit?
Sure, Exhibit 2 sets forth the estimated working interest ownership for the underlying spacing units in the overlapping requested spacing unit. Sections 25 and 36 indicated in green as Hess's operated Ian Henley unit, in which Hess owns 83%. Indicated in blue, sections 19 and 30 is the Grayson Mill operated DSU called the Brown 30-19, in which Hess owns 0.4% working interest. Grayson Mill owns 77% working interest. And indicated in yellow, sections 31 and 6 is the Hess operated Ian Scavo DSU, in which Hess owns 87%. In the requested 2560 overlapping spacing unit, Hess owns 63%, Grayson Mill owns 22%, Northern Oil and Gas owns 8%, and others own approximately 6% working interest.
Thank you. Mr. Examiner, I have no further questions for this witness and would seek admission of Exhibits 1 and 2.
Exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Jaden, do you know what Hess's interest is in the current 2560 consisting of 24, 25, 19, and 30?
Yes, I do. The estimated interest is 40%.
And do you know what Grayson Mills' interest is in that one?
Yes, the estimated interest is 42%.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from staff? Seeing none. Ms. Akinpelu, do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Motun, could you take us through Exhibit 3, the structure map?
Exhibit 3 is showing the existing DSU outlined in blue and the requested 2560 in green, which is with the top middle Bakken map presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing the formation is dipping to the southwest. The 8 to 8 prime line represents the location of the wells used in the exhibit and Exhibit 4.
And let's move on to the cross-section in Exhibit 4.
Exhibit 4 is a stratigraphic cross-section flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the formation is present and continuous throughout the area.
Mr. Examiner, I have no further questions for this witness and would seek admission of the geology Exhibits 3 and 4.
The exhibits are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff? Seeing none. Move on to Ms. Keshemir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, let's go to Exhibit 5. Can you walk us through the proposed development plan for the spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for Section 2536, Township 15694, and Section 3031, Township 15693. The bold dashed line is the proposed well, and it will be drilled in the Middle Bakken Formation from the same pad as the infill well.
And moving on to Exhibit 6, can you take us through the reservoir data and economic summary, please?
Sure. Exhibit 6 shows the economic summary for a single Middle Bakken well in East Nesson area. Expected EWA is around 700,000 barrels with a 1.4% recovery factor. Economics will run at $62 working interest flat and 100%, $62 WTI flat and 100% working interest. Expected NPV is around $10 million.
And in your opinion, would the proposed spacing with the lease line well prevent waste and protect correlative rights?
Yes, it does.
Mr. Examiner, I have no further questions for this witness. I move to admit Exhibits 5 and 6 and the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits and affidavit are admitted. Are there any questions from commission staff?
Aisha, in this case, is the well proposed to be approximately 50 feet off the section line?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
And all the testimony you gave in the previous case concerning the issues with Grayson Mill and the timing of drilling this well would be equally applicable?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Aisha, do you plan to batch drill all these wells in these two cases at the same time and complete them about the same time also?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions from staff? Seeing none. Anything further on this matter, Mr. Borax?
That's it, thank you.
That will conclude the hearing in case number 29571. Moving on. Case number 29461. Application of Murex Petroleum Corp. for an order amending the applicable orders for the Stanley Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 25, 26, 35, and 36, Township 155 North, Range 91 West, Montreal County, ND, and authorize 2 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is dismissed. Case number 29462, application of Murex Petroleum Corp. for an order amending the applicable orders for the Sanish Bakken Pool to establish 2 overlapping 2560 acre spacing units described as sections 1, 2, 11, and 12, and sections 2, 3, 10, and 11, Township 154 North, Range 91 West, Montreal County, ND, and authorize 2 horizontal wells to be drilled on each such unit and for such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is dismissed. Case number 29230. Temporary spacing to develop an oil and/or gas pool discovered by the True Oil LLC, number 31-36 Northern State, well file number 37495, northwest quarter of the northeast quarter of section 36, township 148 North, range 102 West, Mackenzie County, ND, define the field limits and enact such special field rules as may be necessary. This case is continued to October. Case number 29405, application of Oventive Production, Inc. for an order amending the applicable orders for the Sand Creek Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 3840 acre spacing unit described as sections 15, 16, 21, 22, 27, and 28, Township 153 North, Range 96 West, Mackenzie County, ND, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to October. Case number 29346, application of Oventive Production, Inc. for an order amending the applicable orders for the Lost Bridge and/or Bear Creek Bakken Pools to establish a stand-up 1920 acre spacing unit described as sections 10, 15, and 22, Township 148 North, Range 96 West, Dunn County, ND, and authorize 6 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit and granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case is continued to October. And that concludes today's hearings.